What if I told you that the biggest danger about cancer isn't always the disease itself, but how little most of us actually understand it? Many people believe cancer suddenly appears one day without warning, but the reality is far more complicated and in many ways far more fascinating. Long before a tumor becomes visible on a scan or causes noticeable symptoms, an invisible battle may already be taking place inside the body. Tiny changes begin at the cellular level, and while your body works around the clock to stop them, some of those changes can slowly gain the upper hand. Understanding this hidden process could completely change the way you think about prevention, health, and even your own body. One of the most surprising discoveries in modern biology is that our bodies constantly produce cells with mistakes. Every day, billions of cells divide, repair themselves, and eventually die. During this process, small errors naturally occur. In most cases, these damaged cells are quickly identified and destroyed by the immune system before they become a problem. It's an incredibly efficient defense mechanism that protects us every single day without us even realizing it. The problem begins only when a damaged cell manages to escape those safeguards and continues multiplying without control. But here's where things become even more interesting. Cancer isn't just one type of cell growing out of control. Even a single tumor can contain dozens or sometimes hundreds of different cell populations. Some rely heavily on sugar for energy, while others adapt to using proteins or fats. Certain cells thrive in oxygen-rich environments, while others survive where oxygen is scarce. Some multiply aggressively, spreading rapidly, while others remain almost dormant, hiding quietly for months or even years. Instead of acting like a single enemy, cancer behaves more like an entire ecosystem filled with different survival strategies. This diversity explains one of the greatest challenges doctors face during treatment. Imagine eliminating nearly every harmful cell inside a tumor, only for a tiny group of survivors to remain hidden. Those remaining cells often possess characteristics that made them harder to destroy in the first place. Given enough time, they can multiply again, rebuilding the disease from the ground up. That's one reason why preventing recurrence can be just as difficult as treating the original cancer itself. Scientists have also discovered something that sounds almost unbelievable. Before some cancers spread to new organs, they may release microscopic particles that travel through the bloodstream. These particles don't form tumors immediately. Instead, they prepare distant tissues by changing the local environment, almost as if they're laying the groundwork for future growth. Researchers sometimes describe this as creating a welcoming neighborhood long before cancer cells actually arrive. It's an extraordinary example of how sophisticated disease processes can become inside the human body. Even more concerning is cancer's ability to manipulate the body's own defenses. Your immune system is designed to recognize abnormal cells and destroy them before they become dangerous. However, certain cancer cells learn how to confuse these defenses. They release chemical signals that reduce immune activity, allowing the disease to hide in plain sight. In some situations, immune cells that should be attacking the tumor instead end up supporting its survival without realizing it. Another hidden strategy involves energy itself. Immune cells require enormous amounts of fuel to detect threats and launch attacks. Cancer cells consume nutrients at an extremely high rate, altering their surroundings and making it harder for immune cells to function efficiently. As resources become limited, the body's natural defenses gradually lose their ability to respond with full strength. It's not simply a fight between healthy cells and cancer cells. It's also a battle over the body's energy supply. Perhaps the most dangerous cancer cells aren't the ones growing the fastest. Surprisingly, some of the greatest threats come from cells that remain almost completely inactive. These slow-growing cells can avoid treatments designed to target rapidly dividing cells. They may stay hidden for long periods before becoming active again, which is one reason why some cancers can return even after successful treatment. While aggressive cells often receive the most attention, these quiet survivors may ultimately determine whether the disease comes back. Researchers have also found evidence suggesting that resistance to treatment doesn't always develop after therapy begins. In many cases, small populations of resistant cells may already exist inside a tumor from the very beginning. When treatment eliminates the more vulnerable cells, these resistant survivors remain behind and eventually multiply. Understanding this possibility has transformed the way scientists think about developing future cancer therapies. All of these discoveries point toward one important conclusion: cancer is far more complex than most people realize. It's not simply one disease with one cause or one solution. It's a constantly evolving process influenced by genetics, the immune system, metabolism, lifestyle, and the environment inside the body. And before we can understand how to reduce risk or improve outcomes, we first need to understand how healthy cells slowly lose control in the first place. That's exactly where the next part of this story begins. To understand cancer, you first have to understand something remarkable about your body. Every cell follows a strict set of instructions that keeps the entire system functioning properly. Cells know when to grow, when to repair damage, when to perform their specific job, and perhaps most importantly, when to stop dividing and make way for new cells. This cycle has been carefully refined over millions of years of evolution. As long as these instructions are followed, the body maintains an incredible balance. But the moment even a single cell begins ignoring those commands, the foundation for something much more dangerous can be created. Contrary to what many people imagine, cancer doesn't usually appear overnight. It develops through a long series of gradual changes. In the earliest stage, a small group of cells may simply begin dividing a little faster than normal. At this point, they still resemble healthy cells and continue performing many of their original functions. The body often recognizes this unusual growth and attempts to correct it. In many cases, these abnormal cells disappear before ever causing harm, which is why countless cellular mistakes never become cancer. If those early changes continue, the cells gradually begin losing their normal appearance. Under a microscope, scientists can detect subtle differences in their size, shape, and internal structure. They no longer look exactly like the healthy tissue surrounding them. Although this still isn't invasive cancer, it's an important warning sign that the normal control system is beginning to weaken. Fortunately, even at this stage, the body's repair mechanisms continue working tirelessly to reverse the damage whenever possible. As more genetic and environmental changes accumulate, some cells undergo something even stranger. They begin losing their original identity. Imagine heart cells behaving less like heart cells, or skin cells forgetting the specialized role they were designed to perform. Instead of remaining loyal to their original purpose, they start adopting characteristics that don't belong in that tissue. Scientists view this identity shift as another major milestone in the journey toward cancer, because specialized cells are essential for healthy organs to function properly. The next phase becomes far more concerning. The abnormal cells now look dramatically different from healthy tissue and divide in increasingly disorganized patterns. Their DNA contains growing numbers of mistakes. Communication between neighboring cells starts breaking down, and the body's normal control signals become less effective. Even so, this doesn't guarantee that cancer will develop. Many abnormal cell clusters remain stable for years, while others are successfully eliminated by immune surveillance or natural repair systems before they can progress any further. One of the most encouraging facts is that the human body constantly fights back against these changes. Specialized repair proteins scan DNA day and night, searching for damaged sections that need correction. When possible, they repair those errors before the cell divides again. If the damage is too severe, another protective mechanism may trigger the cell to destroy itself entirely. This process prevents defective cells from passing their mistakes to future generations. It's an extraordinary quality control system operating silently inside every healthy person. However, problems arise when damaged cells learn how to bypass these protective barriers. Instead of shutting themselves down, they continue surviving and multiplying despite carrying serious defects. Once they reach the stage, they may become confined to one location without invading nearby tissue. Doctors often consider this an extremely early form of cancer because the abnormal cells have not yet spread beyond their original boundaries. Detecting disease during this phase dramatically improves treatment options, which is why early screening can be so valuable. The real danger begins when these abnormal cells break through the natural barriers separating tissues. Once that happens, they gain access to surrounding structures, allowing them to invade healthy organs one area at a time. This transition marks a major turning point because the disease is no longer confined to a single location. Instead, it begins interacting with blood vessels, connective tissue, and the immune system in entirely new ways, making treatment significantly more challenging. Eventually, some cancer cells develop the ability to leave the original tumor altogether. They enter the bloodstream or the lymphatic system, traveling through the body like microscopic travelers searching for new places to settle. Most of these wandering cells never survive the journey. They face attacks from immune cells, changes in blood flow, and harsh conditions that destroy them before they reach another organ. But a very small number succeed. Once they establish themselves elsewhere, entirely new tumors can begin forming far away from the original disease. This stage, known as metastasis, is responsible for the majority of cancer-related deaths because multiple organs become involved instead of just one. For decades, scientists believed this entire process was driven almost entirely by random genetic mutations. While DNA changes certainly play a major role, many researchers now believe the surrounding environment inside the body deserves equal attention. Factors such as chronic inflammation, hormone balance, metabolic health, sleep quality, nutrition, stress, and exposure to harmful substances may influence how cells behave long before permanent genetic damage becomes widespread. In other words, genes may load the gun, but the body's internal environment often influences whether that trigger is ever pulled. This shift in understanding has changed the way many experts think about prevention. Rather than viewing cancer as something that appears suddenly without warning, it's increasingly seen as the result of years of biological changes occurring beneath the surface. That doesn't mean every case can be prevented, but it does suggest that supporting the body's natural repair systems may play a far greater role than many people once believed. And to understand why those repair systems sometimes fail, we need to explore one of the most powerful forces controlling cell growth inside the human body: our metabolism.